Well, it's my pleasure today to introduce our program speaker, Paul Peterson. It's an honor being, it was an honor being Paul's sponsor here, and I've known Paul for over 25 years. I think he was the best man at a wedding where my wife was the maid of honor, and that was over 25 years ago, and it's an honor to be considered one of Paul's friends. Now, Paul Peterson is a real rock star, literally, in every sense of the word. All you have to do is if you Google Paul Peterson musician, you can see it generates 518,000 results, and you literally get pages and pages of results on this guy. And I could talk all day about his accomplishments, but I just thought I'd list a few of them here. And actually, I noticed a lot of this stuff was in the Barkers, so for some, this is a duplication. But he was discovered by Prince at age 17 and was a keyboard player in the band The Time for the movie Purple Rain. Paul took the lead vocalist spot in the Prince-produced group The Family. Paul then became a solo artist, scoring hits with MCA and Atlantic Records. He's recorded, toured, and written music with Steve Miller, Prince, George Benson, Kenny Loggins, and I know he's also been involved with Donnie and Marie Osmond, this just to name a few. His band F Deluxe is celebrating its 30-year anniversary and continues to perform. He'll soon be traveling here with Peter Frampton. On top of all this, he's the program chair for audio and recording at the Minneapolis Media Institute, and one of his finest efforts was getting me to do a rap video for his introduction to Rotary. And I also have to add that he got me the greatest seats ever at the Rolling Stones concert last year, so Paul has had a truly remarkable year. And then while I was doing this, I thought it would be just for giggles, see what you would get if you Googled Jeff O. And what's most interesting is the last thing on suggestions. It tells you a bunch of stuff. The last one is find a new friend. Find a more interesting friend. Sorry, Jeff. All right, back to Paul here. So Paul is, in addition to being a literal rock star, Paul is a figurative rock star and the perfect Rotarian. I've witnessed him put his heart and soul into all he does, both professionally, with his family, his friends, and the organizations he belongs. And when he joined Rotary, he was really all in and has done a tremendous amount for the club. He has a heart of gold and certainly embodies the Rotary motto of service above self. Now, before I turn it over to Paul, I want to show you the rest of the first page of the Google search, which is really interesting. It's got stuff on there about songs he's written, places he'll go. But the thing that's the most interesting is what other people search for. I mean, you got Prince, you got Eric Leeds, and then Matt Bookmeyer, Barney Fife, and Pee Wee Herman. So maybe you can explain that. Please welcome Paul Peterson.
Thank you and good night. How do you top that? Unbelievable. I'll tell you, I'm more nervous probably standing in front of you than I will be when I hit the road with Peter Frampton. It's intimidating to be in front of my dear, dear friend. So I'm honored. Thank you for asking me to speak to you a little bit about the music business today. So I appreciate that so much. Well, the title of my talk today is The Power of Music, the Business of Music. So here's a couple of people that were just mentioned. I have to say to you that I am incredibly humbled by the cool people that I've had the opportunity to work with. I do not take that for granted. I never will. It's so fun to do what I do for a living. Being a musician and a recording artist and everything that embodies the music business is really a labor of love. It truly, truly is, and I'm so honored to be have a whole family who makes their living off of music and music-related things. So what is music? I know that it touches each and every one of your lives, as it touches mine. And I got a couple ideas. It's such a vast, vast, vast subject. It has so many implications. Well, this is for Paul Moody, by the way. What is it? Music is a transporter. You hear a song, right? It takes you right back to a special memory. Oh, what a night, it's late September. That's when I was in the backseat with a bunch of people. Driving, I might add. But it reminds me of that exact moment in 1981 when I was hanging out and I got to hold a girl's hand. And, it just takes you back to a moment. So music can transport you back in time to good memories, great feelings, good friends. Music is a transformer. A lot of times we will seek and look for music that will be emotional for us, right? Whether in good times and or bad. Music is such an important part of who we are as people, and it really is a soundtrack or a journey through our lives. It can take you from an incredibly terrible day to something where you can get a new outlook. And music really can transform you. Yeah, here's one that I find is interesting. That's an equalizer, by the way. Music is an equalizer. Why do I say that? Well, there's no color. There's no religion. There's no gay or straight. There's no language except for the language of music. Music is an even playing field. I've been able to make the music with such incredibly different people from different walks of life, and nothing matters except for what we're doing and how we relate and have a conversation, not orally, but through our music. So it totally is a great equalizer. It's polarizing. Okay, so who here loves the music on the radio today, right now? Raise your hand. Oh, we got a few. The rest of you are turning into your parents, by the way. Okay, so a little audience participation. Where do you listen to music? iTunes. iTunes, somebody said? Okay. What about you, Governor? Where do you listen to music?
Car.
In your car. Anybody else? Where do you listen to music? Okay. So we everywhere, basically, is where we listen to music. Why do we do that? What's the attraction? Somebody. Entertainment. Energizer. Absolutely. Yeah, there's so many different reasons why we turn to music for so many different things. Well, let me tell you something. You may think you know what I do, and sometimes I question what the heck I'm doing, but you would be surprised at how many different roles that I have to take on and have taken on in my career. So I'm an educator, as you know. I produce records. I'm a songwriter, commercial writer, a live and studio musician, a vocalist, a manager, a web designer, a consultant, an employer, a social media consultant, a travel agent. Right, Marty? Not a very good one, but. So why do all these things, and why is this part of my life? Well, musicians are self-employed. You won't find a lot of musicians who do this strictly for a living. You just won't. A lot of us will have secondary jobs, or actually treat music as a secondary job, because it's just simply survival. You have to do all these different things in order to put all these income streams into one good one, to be able to do things like live in society, pay your Cadillac car payment, right? That was for you. You're welcome, absolutely. Send your kids to the University of Minnesota. Well, I knew I could count on you. But honest to God, if you do this solely for a living, you have to wear many, many, many different hats. Some people say, you don't have a real job. What do you do for a living? Well, I just listed a bunch of different things. That really does make up for so much of my time. And I think I get up at 6:30 in the morning, and I am working until I pass out, probably around 7:30 p.m. No. No more rock and roll hours, right? No. I mean, it is a full-time commitment, and I'm honored to do it. I'm certainly not complaining. Do you have a question? Yeah. Okay, the question is does a violinist for a Philharmonic Orchestra, is that what they consider doing they do that full-time? The answer, as far as I'm concerned, is yes. And this is a whole different area of our topic. And why they're able to call it a full living is because the union, the Twin Cities Musician Union, or American Federation of Musicians, stand up for these folks. right? And they have, what do unions do? They guarantee your minimum wage. And they have collective bargaining agreements with all of these different orchestras all over the world, and that's where the union comes in handy. So a violinist probably starts off, and you'll see in a later slide, around, could be $40,000, $50,000, going all the way up to $175,000. So it really ranges. In fact, they have a better shot at it because they have a union in their corner negotiating their bottom salary. So I'll get to some more of those kind of things as we go along. Okay, becoming a musician, there's a lot to it, right? You have, first of all, I can't see that over there, but you have lessons in education. You have to learn how to play your instrument. You need to have an undying, unwavering passion. You also have to have buy-in from people like you and I, your friends, your parents, your support group. Because if you don't, then you question yourself all the time and then you're sunk. Because you need to have an unbelievable focus and commitment to make it in this business. You have to network. You have to invest in your craft. You have to build a studio. You have to, let's say this violinist has to buy a beautiful violin. These violins can cost $250,000. For real. It's just not something that you go down to Growth Music and buy. This is something that is incredibly valuable. So that is what it is to become a musician. And it's funny, I put this up here because I teach a success class at Minneapolis Media Institute. And I bring in different rock stars and things like that just to show my students that, just like all other entrepreneurs, our road is definitely not straight from point A to point B, is it? Right? As a musician, we need to, we have a lot of different off-ramps that we take. A lot of different off-ramps, a lot of different on-ramps, and it looks a lot like that squiggly line to the right. That's certainly my career. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how we make money, okay? So let's talk about a local musician. Okay, so how do they make money? We do gigs. Now, gigs here in the cities are not regulated, most of them, by the union, so the unions aren't setting their minimums. So these kids who are trying to make it are going in for $25 a piece a night because they are hungry. They aren't business people, right? They don't realize that what they're doing is they're not setting themselves up to be sustainable. So through education, we're trying to get them there. But in a reality, this is what most gigs will pay, right? Either starting out or sometimes I'll do a gig for $125 simply because I want to play with whomever I would be calling me for that. Here's the deal with these kind of gigs. There's no contract with the artist that you're performing with. They're a work for hire. There's no benefits. There's no union involved in these things. And you can make between $50 and $500 a gig depending on the engagement. Here's the other kicker, is that most of these gigs only happen on the weekends. So if you do the math, right, and you at best have 52 weeks times, let's say, $300 a weekend, we are talking not very much money. So it's a little disconcerting, so that's why we have multiple income streams, right? And I'm talking more about the kids coming up and wanting and choosing to do this for a living. This is something they have to take a real good, hard look at. Okay, so the orchestra musician, there we go, between $28,000 and $143,000 a year. It takes a lot to get to those levels. It's like pro sports. I think I said it all is like pro sports. You try to make it. Some of you are in AA, AAA. Some of you get called up to the majors. That's where you get guaranteed income, retirement, health, all that when the unions get involved. So that's where the orchestra musicians have a little bit of an advantage over guys who are playing clubs. Okay, so we can also have another income stream by doing recording sessions. Now, what are those? Recording sessions, we make records. You guys like to buy records one way or another. So in order for you to do that, we go in and we offer our services as a bass player, an arranger, whatever the case may be. Now, on a local level, we're probably not dealing with major record labels. So it's either, hey, I got pizza, come on over, let's make a record. That's a reality. Or I've got $50. or I've got $300. Now, granted, things are different when you start talking about TV commercials and things like that. You can make a very good living doing that, singing and playing on TV commercials. Pardon me. This town has been known to produce a lot of those kind of commercials, so that's the good news, right? But as you can see, you really tough it out when you're cutting your teeth here in Minneapolis. You really got to believe, and you got to keep going through the naysayers, and you got to hope that you get to the next level. Here's the next level. Higher profile gigs and tours can range from $250 a gig to $3,500 a gig. So here's the thing that you might not think about. Let's use Taylor Swift, for example, just because that's the name that came off the top of my head. Taylor Swift has musicians in her band. She could choose from anybody. But she could also go, there's so many people vying for this job that in order just to put it on your resume that you've toured with me, I'm going to offer you terrible money, and you're going to take it, right? These are battles these kids deal with on a daily basis. Not even kids, people my age going, she's right, maybe I should do that. It's just about business. So there are a lot of fluctuations, let's just say, in how rock stars will pay you. You can make a good living doing this, by the way, right? And you can up $3,500 a gig is nothing to bat an eye at. That's good money. Again, it's work for hire. Someone could say, great, Paul, I want you on the gig. Oh, that didn't work out. Bye-bye. And then you have nothing. So there is no security, but we know that going in. So it is a choice that we are making. And we wouldn't trade it for anything. But I just want you to know what the facts are. Again, yes, I'm not passing any judgment on anything, but I want you to know what it is that we encounter every single day. Okay, so there's really no union that's going to set our rates on a major touring gig either. Rock stars don't necessarily pay in for your benefits. In fact, I've never had or worked with one that did, ever. So we fend for ourselves just as if we're a business owner, which is what we call ourselves in the tax world, so we can write things off. But that gets expensive as well, especially when the tour comes to an end and we are known as a seasonal employee, then we got to continue to have our health insurance and different things like that. So that becomes challenging sometimes. So let's look down here. A background vocalist, you can make the same amount of money. Recording sessions, when you start working for major labels, you can make great money. Here's the other thing. If you start doing commercials and things like that, there is something called residuals, which we love. Residuals are exactly what it sounds like. You get residual income. You go to your mailbox, you open it up, tear it open. Hey, babe, we're going to Hawaii. Woo, we got a vacation. And sometimes the checks aren't as good, but at least there is continual residual income coming in on gigs that you can get at this level. Endorsements. Here's another thing. Endorsements, like, let's say Fender wants me to play their bass, which would be awesome, by the way. Did you see that, Fender? It'd be nice. I like your basses very much. So they'll call you and they say, hey, play my bass. And we'll go, gladly, thank you very much. So that's usually what the exchange is, nothing more than that. When you get in the upper echelon, you can definitely start using your likeness to promote these things for money. So that's another opportunity to make some income there as well. So there are definite ways to be able to do this. Income streams for bands. I mean, you can play clubs, weddings, private parties, coffee houses. And the gigs range, again, from pay to play, which is, it's a great opportunity to be able to play in this club. It's a very famous club, but you're going to have to pay us $300 for us to give you a sound man and for you to appear here. That happens. What happens if somebody offers you the Taylor Swift gig? Well, you think you'd make a lot of money getting on the Taylor Swift gig. Sorry, Taylor, I don't mean to pick on you today. Sometimes you pay to play there as well. So you have to pay a certain amount of money to be able to get on that tour, to get that exposure. So it's an investment for future earnings. So it's a little bit different. There's a lot of weighing going on of what's going to be the best for you. Here's some other things that you can make money off of. Merchandising. grants, government grants, are in Minnesota, I must say, is an excellent place to live if you are an artist. Most musicians don't know how to take advantage of those, but the money is out there for grants. National artists, they can make money with concerts, parties, merchandise, hats, same thing as a local artist. They start doing television. They're going to make money off the records. That's for sure. Here's one thing I want to talk about, and I know I don't have a lot of time left here, and that is how the music business has changed since we were growing up, listening to records and 8-track. Who's got their 8-track tape still? Come on, you do. See? I knew there was one. So then we've gone to different platforms such as CD, iTunes, and now Spotify. It has completely changed the business the way we are, right? Just so you know a couple of facts, when we make a record, we usually make it for a record company, right? They fund it. We get between 10 and 25% of retail, sometimes wholesale. Keith Benson will have to back me up on some of these facts and figures. I'm doing the best I can here. As you can imagine, that's not a lot of the cut of the pie. Also, don't forget that when we make a record for someone, we have to pay back the whole entire amount that they've spent on us to make the record, make the video, tour support, all those different kinds of things. So before we see one dime, all those funds need to be paid back. That's how records work, just so you know. What's cool about the internet now is that we can get fan funding. So you've heard of GoFundMe for health-related things, but there's different things for bands as well, Indiegogo, and I'm forgetting the most obvious one. Does anybody know what it is? What is it? Kickstarter, that's correct. So that's you get money in advance for the sale of your record to a band, or to a fan. You offer them incentives to help you out along your way. So I already explained to you that the artist gets about 10 to 25% of the profits here. And the other thing that someone can do for a living is be a songwriter. Talk about residual income. This is where I have made most of my income, writing songs for different artists like the Corrs or the Jets or people you've never heard of but have still sells records, and they pay you. You go out and get the check from the mailbox and you go, Mama, we're going to Hawaii again, or whatever the case may be. But this is something that is not gone away. It has been degraded, and here's the only reason why. When we open Pandora's box with the way the music business has been distributed, right? We've opened it up to where we can digitize these things and have been able to do that for years. So when this first started, people were trading files and stealing files and downloading illegally music, things like that. And the record business was very, shall we say, they stuck their head in the sand. And they didn't do a lot about it, and they tried to make up for lost time. And they finally are figuring out a system here. So iTunes really was the first system that would compete on a level that would compete with piracy. It was a lot lesser scale, and we've gone from a $40 billion business to a $20 billion business. But we are on the mend. Entertainment is absolutely everywhere, right? What I want you to take away from this is not that I'm up here whining. I wanted to give you facts and figures of what it is and the passion and the commitment that artists, we as artists, really have to put into this thing in order to make it work. Not all of us last, but we're still going. It takes commitment. Don't take your artists for granted. Support them, love them, like you do me. You guys have been so incredibly good to me. I see you, by the way. Be careful. I'm not passing judgment, but be careful. If you share files, it degrades the quality, the future quality of the music that will be made, because if people can't make a sustainable living, they're not going to do it. So be careful when you do that and think of things like that. There is nothing else I would rather do in my life ever. I am so blessed to be able to make a living off of my music. Thank you for the opportunity to give you some ideas of what we go through on a daily basis. And I will see you in 4 months. Come July 13th, playing with Frampton at the State Theater. Thank you.
We have time for a couple questions. I'm sure people have time, want to ask.
Sure. The question is talk a little bit about the personal grind and the effects on home life. Whew, you got another hour and a half here? My wife is a saint, first of all. She knew what she was getting into. I met her in high school at the Academy of Holy Angels. She knew what it entailed. That doesn't make it easy. I spent the last 20 years the first 20 years of our marriage on the road. And our kids grew up. I missed a lot, but it is the way that we were able to pay for things, our house, our lifestyle. And you have to have a good life partner who understands what that is. And you also have to trust each other, because it is sex, drugs, and rock and roll, or can be, unless you make a choice and you have a conversation with your mate and say, that is not what I'm doing. And you have to, look, we all have our issues, but I tell you what, to have somebody as strong as my wife is, and to raise my babies the way she raised them, that's what you need. So I got off the road for 7 years, and that's what I've been doing, heading up Minneapolis Media Institute, to watch my babies graduate from high school, watch my babies graduate from college. I made a shift, and now I thought my life on the road was over. Now it's not. I'm going right back out with Peter Frampton, so go figure. Thanks for the question. Yes, sir. Yeah, let me tell you something. I'm so looking forward to getting in a little cubicle on a bus and getting in my bunk and sleeping and hanging out and playing great music with a legend. I don't know how stressful it'll be. The only stressful part for me right now is to make sure I do a good job. The biggest thing that I have on my plate is to learn the songs, make sure that I know what I'm doing way ahead of time so he never has to ask me. My reputation is what has got me work for my entire career, and that's what I try to instill in these kids who are going to my school. Your reputation is everything, and if you have a bad one, you will not work. It's pretty simple. So I'm not stressed out about anything except for doing a good job. Is that it?
Thank you, Paul, for telling us your story about music. Thank you, Paul Moody, for sponsoring him. It's one of the few. No, I was going to say that, but Paul, as you know that Rotary consists of 1.2 million neighbors, community leaders, and global citizens like yourself who are united for the common good. Rotary has 6 areas of focus. One is supporting education. In appreciation of your presentation today, we will donate an e-book to the middle or high school in your name at the Edina High School. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Paul. You did great. We're all very excited for you in this next chapter in your life, or a continuation of a previous chapter. Jack Kenefick has purchased 30 tickets to that concert July 30th, so members of our club can go to see Paul. You stop. If you are interested in attending, please see Jack or Ken Anderson. Look for more information about that in the coming weeks at our meetings, in our newsletters, and emails. I would like to close today's meeting with a quote or a lyric from Peter Frampton. The longer you love, the longer you live. The stronger you feel, the more you can give. Thank you all for coming to today's meeting. Remember to join us next week at 11:30 for our Vocational Ethics Day. As you go about your business this week, remember that being leaders and modeling strong ethics is one of Rotary's many gifts to the world. Meeting adjourned.